Janice Doty is, I think she's also online too, but her voice isn't doing very well today, so she's not going to be talking. So I'm going to go ahead and start here. We've got 12 people on the webinar, and our purpose for these webinars is to help you maximize your real estate investment. One of the things that we know is that when you're not right there, not paying attention daily like we do, then sometimes the big picture can get lost. And one of the things we know is that the ownership of real estate, investment real estate, is the foundation for building wealth. I'm sure we've all heard the story of Ray Kroc, and he was the man who started McDonald's. And someone asked him about being in the hamburger business. And he said to him, I'm not in the hamburger business. He said, I'm in the real estate business. The hamburgers just pay for the real estate. So our goal as TCT, and there's a picture of me and Janice, we are more than a property management company. We've actually been helping our clients build wealth since 1977. And we've done that by advising them on the right strategies to accomplish their goals. And the goal usually is to obtain financial independence, and real estate is the vehicle for that. Janice and I, we believe it, we live it, and we actually wrote the national best-selling book about how to do it. And in November of 2012, Hold became a national bestseller, not about how to speculate in real estate, but how to build wealth in real estate. So I want to go into the Phoenix market and give you some background, because our market has been very favorable for real estate investors. And we know that some people own their investment property on purpose. What I mean by that is they intended to rent that property out when they bought it. You know, I'm getting some static on the line, so I'm going to go ahead and mute. Can everybody hear what I'm saying?
We couldn't hear you before.
I think you went away for a little while. So the last about a minute and a half or so, we were not able to hear you.
Okay, after I muted the phones?
Yes.
When it muted, I think it muted yourself as well.
All right. Well, then I won't do it again. All right. Let me go back a second here. And I'm going to say that that the real estate, our goal today is to provide an overview of what's going on. Got it covered. And And so we're just going to take a look at where we've been in the past, and that's what I'm going to do on this chart right here. This is an example of the annual sales that have happened in the area. And you can see all the way back in 2001 up to 2005, we saw sales increasing every month. And as the sales were increasing, the prices were increasing, and the builders were building more houses, and people were buying houses, and they were speculating in the real estate market. And as most of you know, the mortgage market facilitated it, and we had all kinds of crazy lending practices. And so when the bubble burst, we saw the trend going down. And what I'm showing you are normal sales. And what I mean by a normal sale is that this was the buyer and the seller, and there was no bank involved. It wasn't a foreclosure property. It wasn't a short sale. These are the normal sales. Then we can see as we got into 2011 and 2012, the market shifted again, and sales started. And you can see where we are in 13 and 14 that it has normalized out and flattened out as far as number of sales. Now, those are normal sales. I'm going to click this here, and now we're looking at a combination of all of the sales. So the orange that you're looking at here, these were the foreclosure properties. So if we add the foreclosure properties to the dark blue line here, and we add the short sales to the dark blue line, you can see that in 2009, 2010, 2011, and 12, where I'm pointing my cursor here, we were almost as many properties as these were the second and third highest number of sales in the Phoenix area ever. First highest was in 2005, and then we had these couple of years where we saw a high volume of sales, and then you can see that the sales have been trending down ever since that point. So what does that mean? What are we looking at with that? I'm going to show you a couple of other things. This is a chart that shows the number of sales that were made to landlords. So let's look here. Look all the way to the left side where the cursor is. And in 2004, we had approximately 10% of all transactions were being sold to investors. Then during those peak years of 2005, we saw it go up to a little over 15% were being sold to investors. As the market trended downward, then what we see here is the number of investors went back to our normal, which is about 10%. But our prices were going down. Our prices were going down significantly. And so as the prices went down, we experienced something here in Phoenix that had never happened before, and that is that Wall Street money came in and started buying up property, and they were paying cash for it. So I'll show you that, and I want you to notice that we got all the way up to the point where one house out of three was actually selling to an investor, and that was back in 2012 and 2013. This just shows you the percentage of homes that were purchased with cash. And the reason that I'm saying that is because in 2008, this is where the financial crisis happened. And right after 2008, the cash came out of the stock market and started going into the real estate market. And during these periods of time here, we had hedge funds buying investment property here in Phoenix. And anybody that was trying to buy a property was competing with these hedge funds that were able to pay all cash for their homes. Go ahead.
Do you have a speakerphone? What?
No, we can hear you talking. So if you can mute your phone.
All right.
So let's just go back and take a look. The market, when we look at this is what we call the Cromford Market Index. And the black line across here is the 100 line, and that's where we consider the market to be in balance. In other words, it doesn't favor the seller, it doesn't favor the buyer, it's in balance at 100. So back in 2005, prices are going up, it favored the owners of real estate. In 2007, 2008, it favored the purchasers. And then look at what's happened in the past couple of years, 2012, 2013, then our market shifted in 2013, and now you can see it shifting again. I'm going to show you a more close-up of that. And you can see this purple line up here. This is 2012, January of 2013, and you can see the market started shifting down, came down quickly once we hit summer of 2013, continued down on the green line, continued down a little bit in 2014, and now it's moving back up again. And so it's getting back to where there's a balanced market. So the big question about all of this, it seems to me, is why? Why is this going on? And is there an opportunity for us? And what does this mean for me? So I'm going to talk a minute about the penalty box, because the reason the market shifted is because the demand for real estate went down. Why did the demand go down? Well, because there were people that lost a home to foreclosure in the past 7 years, or they completed a short sale in the past 4 years, and those people are ineligible to get financing. So people with stellar credit could get a loan, but people in the penalty box weren't able to do that, and we call that pent-up demand. In other words, they're waiting until they're able to get a loan. Here's the second thing that happened. Many of the people that are in their 20s and maybe even early 30s that would normally be first-time home buyers, their only experience in their adult life with the real estate industry or with the real estate market is that prices went down. My parents, my friends, they lost houses, they lost money, and they don't have a long history with real estate, so they're looking at it and going, I'm not sure I want to do this. I think I'll just rent. In addition to all of that, at the same time, Congress made it more difficult to get a mortgage. And so the consequence of all of that is that the demand for real estate went down in 2013 and 2014. And what I'd like to do is let's look at the future, because we think it looks really bright for investment. I've just shared with you that the market had shifted down, and now it's starting to shift back in our favor in the right direction. And I want to talk about that for a second, because Phoenix just passed Philadelphia to become the 5th largest city in the U.S. And right now, it's actually projected, our area is projected to add 100,000 people a year, every year, and that's a new small city every year. But let's look at these numbers. In 2012, our population grew by 1%. In 2013, our growth rate went to 2.7%. Our job growth rate is going up. Our unemployment rate is going down, and if you can see at the bottom of the screen down here, our median salary is actually above the national average. So it puts us in a good position. In fact, let me take a look here and show you what the University of Arizona has projected for the Phoenix Mesa Scottsdale area, metropolitan area. And if you see this, they were projecting a 1.5 or 2.7, or excuse me, let me start over. In 2013, they projected a 1.5% increase in population. I just showed you on the last slide, we did 2.7%. We're continuing to grow, and even with the conservative projections that we're seeing from state of Arizona, they're conservatively projecting 91,000 people per year, and we've already surpassed those projections. All this is good news for the people that own real estate. Here's another look at what's happened in our market, and you can see in the red box here, this little blue line shows the number of new homes that were being built. So in 2004, 2005, 2006, we're looking at 3,500 to 4,000 houses per year being built in those years. But for the past 6 years, our new home construction has been down this low. So even while we've continued to increase our population, and even while that trend continues to happen and it's projected to continue, we don't have enough homes to accommodate that population growth right now. So when we look at people coming out of the penalty box, that increases the demand. When you look at 100,000 people coming into and joining our community here, you want to be a long-term holder and an investor in this kind of market. A couple other things you may or may not have read in the news, and that is that Apple has purchased a large plot of land, and they're building a large plant in East Mesa on the other side of the Air Force Base, the old Air Force Base, Williams Gateway it's called right now. And inside of that plant, they're projecting 700 to 1,000 new jobs. And what they're doing is they're making the new sapphire screens that go on the iPads and the iPhones, and they're making the sapphire and the screens for that. State Farm is moving their people from other states into Arizona, and so they're growing and expanding themselves here. So we're seeing the job growth. The airport itself is expanding, and there's some new construction going on in the airport. Most of you know that ASU East, or their Polytechnic campus, is located there. But in addition to that, Westminster College and Benedictine University have both opened up in Mesa, Arizona. So we have new educational facilities, and our future, as I've said, continues to look good for investment and for opportunity. So I'm going to open it up for questions here in a second, but I want to recap before I move on. And I want to say that our rental market is strong. We have seen significant growth in our area. Our prices are poised to increase. We took this price for the past 12 to 18 months now. We have seen the prices stabilize. We've seen sellers that are selling their houses. We haven't seen prices go down necessarily, but what we've seen is that they've had to offer concessions to the buyer in order to get the buyer to own their houses. But now, with the demand picking up, less of the concessions are necessary. And so owning real estate just makes more sense than ever right now. So before I go on, are there any questions about what I've said here? Okay, good. I hope it was clear. One of the questions that we get at TCT all the time is this a good time for me to sell my house? What should I do with my property? I'm not making any money, or it's got a break-even cash flow. Some of the people are saying that. I've got other people that are saying, this is awesome. I'm making $500 a month and I'm paying off my loan. I just wanted to show you something on cash flow here, and let's look at these numbers. If somebody had a loan amount on their property, their mortgage was $225,000, and let's say their interest rate was at 5% and it's a 30-year mortgage or 360 payments. By the time we get into 24 months and 36 months, and as you're moving forward, what's happening is every time that the tenant pays rent, even if the value of the home was to stay the same, the tenant's increasing their equity. So the principal payment is anywhere from, in this particular example, anywhere from $300 a month up to $450 a month, depending on how long you've held on to that mortgage and at this rate. So what's happening is people are actually creating more equity than they even thought about, because the tenant is paying off their mortgage for them. So with all of this, what should I do with what I have? We got lots of options. Some people are looking to say, you know what, I want to know if this is the right time to sell the property. I talked to one of our clients this morning who was asking that question. Should I continue to hold on to the property? We can exchange properties and upgrade properties. How do I increase my rents, and should I buy more? These are all questions that people are asking. And part of the purpose of this particular webinar is each one of our clients has an individual need or scenario, and so we are glad to do a comprehensive analysis of your particular property to help you answer this question. What should I do with what I currently have? So our market analysis will help determine what's the current value of the home, what kind of equity do I have in the property. The rental analysis that we'll do is to determine what kind of rate of return are you actually getting on this particular investment here. We know that if you put money into a CD right now, I checked yesterday, and I think you can get 1.6% return on your investment with Ally Bank. And we'll also do a property inspection because we want to provide you with the right information so that you can make the right decisions about your property. So let me tell with you a couple of things that are going on with our market too. The Phoenix market has matured, and the newer homes are now different than the older properties that are on the market. For those of you that might remember Dobson Ranch, for example, Dobson Ranch was built in the 70s and the early 80s, and those properties have different colors, different fixtures, different floor plans. And those older homes have the advantage of being located closer in to where the renters work, so they desire a shorter commute time. And we're seeing many investors go in to the older houses. They're updating their homes. They're getting more rent for the properties. And so if you've got an older property and you want to look at this particular option, we'll help you analyze your, number one, what's the payback period? If I put money into my house, how quickly can I get it back? And then what's the return on investment for doing that? And we'll analyze it for you so you can see if it makes sense. For those that have older properties, we have other people that are taking the property that they have and they're exchanging that older property into a newer one that may appreciate faster. In fact, right now we're working with one of our clients who took a property he's owned for 15 years, and we are now purchasing 2 other properties that are newer in areas that appreciate better, and so the long-term goal is to get financial independence. And I just want to point out that with the ownership of real estate, the IRS allows real estate investors to sell that one property, acquire 1 property, 2 properties, 3 properties without paying any tax on the gain. So they're just parlaying the money forward, and that's another option for somebody exchanging the property. As I said, Janice and I, we believe this, we live it. We wrote that book on doing this and about how to do it, and we want to help our clients do that well. So let me just wrap this up this way. If somebody says, is this the right time to sell? Quite frankly, if we look at these numbers, the best time to sell was back in the beginning of 2013. This would have been the best time to sell. But we only know that by looking back with 20/20 hindsight. So looking ahead, what we see is the stock market at an all-time high. And frankly, it's anybody's guess if that's going to continue. It's also apparent to us that the next 5 years, with the growth that we're experiencing in Phoenix, with the growth in jobs, the growth in population, will be very favorable to Phoenix area real estate investors. And then in addition to that, all of the people that are coming out of the penalty box all make the opportunity for appreciation even larger. And this little green line here, once the green line trends up above the red line, once this trends up above the red line, then what we see is upward pressure on prices or appreciation. So we value our clients, and we thank you for doing business with us here at TCT. We're going to be doing these regular webinars so that we can keep you up to date on the market, so that we can keep you up to date on the strategies that people are actually using to build significant wealth in one of the fastest growing parts of the country. One more thing. Let me tell you about a couple things that are new at TCT, and then I'll wrap this up. I want to be aware and respectful of your time. Number one, we're negotiating with all of our vendors to reduce the costs, and we're using the size of our company. The fact that we have 550 properties gives us the opportunity to negotiate the best prices with plumbers and painters and everybody else. So we're doing that. We're getting special pricing right now for the remodeling costs that will increase your cash flow. So a quick story, my brother just bought a property here. He lives in Colorado, and he just bought a property here. And the property was built in the 1980s. It needed to be updated. We got some great pricing on flooring and countertops and painting, and we fixed that property up. And so instead of renting for $9.95 per month, we're looking at $1,150 per month, and so his payback period is less than 2 years, and the hardscape, the life of the improvements that we put in, we expect to be at least 7 to 8 years. So a great return on investment. One more thing. In addition, we have a special program of rewards for our tenants that rent from us at TCT, actually your tenants, but that helps us attract tenants and retain the best quality tenants. So if we can attract tenants more quickly by giving them a rewards program, that decreases your vacancy factor, increases your cash flow. And I'm going to tell you that we're proud to say, I'll share with you this statistic. The vacancy factor on the multiple listing system right now is around 10%. And at TCT, we're less than 2%. And so we know that that means more money in our clients' pockets. We know that this isn't just about getting the toilets fixed and the water heater fixed when they leak. This is about us helping you take care of a significant investment and helping you maximize your real estate investment, because we know that the ownership of investment real estate is the foundation for building wealth. And with that, I'm going to stop talking and see, are there any questions that you would have about what's going on in our market right now and ideas that people are using to build wealth?
I have a question about the geography around Phoenix. I have properties in Gilbert and in Avondale that I bought 10 years ago, and there seems to be a huge difference. Gilbert is doing very well. Avondale is doing very poorly. Can you comment about?
Yes. Gilbert is one of the most attractive areas. And, in fact, let me just show you this slide real quickly here, because this is an example of, since 2011, the blue line is the number of rentals that are on the market, and this is the entire Phoenix area. And by the way, everybody here can look at their own chart on our website. This is a tool that's available to you, but let me explain. This is the number of rentals that are available at any one time over this past 3-year period of time. This is the number of properties that actually rented each month. So you can see there's about a 2-to-1 ratio, or a 2-month supply of homes that are on the market across the Phoenix metropolitan area. Let me just go to the next slide, because I just happened to pull up Gilbert. And you can see that Gilbert has about a 1-to-1 relationship between the number of homes that are on the market and the ones that rented. In addition to that, the demographics are the average family income in Gilbert is higher than in Avondale. So here's what happened. In Avondale and in Surprise and in Queen Creek, Santan Valley, many of the properties were purchased in those areas because they were cheaper than they were in Mesa, cheaper than Gilbert. They were farther out. They were cheaper than what they were in Scottsdale or anywhere else when they were further in. So because they were cheaper, more investors bought those properties. And so while there was approximately across the valley a 2-to-1 ratio of investors to homeowners across the valley, in Avondale, in Buckeye, in Surprise, there was a 4 to 5 to 1 ratio of investors to homeowners in those areas. So that coupled with the fact that they're still further out, Santan Valley, for example, and Avondale have not recovered at the same rate that Gilbert and Chandler have. So it's very important as you're looking at each individual property to say, what's happening with this one in this particular area? So my client that I told you about, well, I've got a client right now that's saying, okay, let me get out of Santan Valley and let me get in closer and find a property that's in a little bit closer. You might choose to do that with an Avondale property. I don't know. I can't say specifically till we do the analysis for you, but we're glad to do that.
Who would do the analysis? Who would do the analysis? So we'll get in touch with you. Okay.
I do. Well, there's a couple of them. I want you to get in touch with your property manager because we're going to analyze the rental market for you at the same time we're analyzing the sales market, and we're going to put the two of them together. So I'm working in tandem with your property manager.
Okay. Thanks.
So we're all here to help you with this investment. Yeah, appreciate the question. Any other questions? Let me ask you a question. Was there something that I should have covered on this that I didn't that you would like to hear about next time? All righty. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. We appreciate your business. We appreciate the fact that you're using real estate as the foundation for building wealth. And while we're excited about the future and what that opportunity brings here in Phoenix, I'm going to tell you that it's about time that we got back to a normal market. By normal, I mean when you saw the charts and you saw 2001, 2002, 2003, we saw properties appreciating at a 5 to 6% rate, sometimes even higher in those years. And that's the appreciation rate we experienced when we were growing at about 100,000 people per year. We no longer have Wall Street coming in buying properties. We no longer have the dysfunction of the foreclosures and the REOs and the short sales and all of that. So as we look forward to a normal market with low interest rates, with low inventory, this is a phenomenal time to be an investor in the Phoenix area. And if you want have questions about your individual property, please feel free to contact us. You can do that on our website, or you can do that by just reaching out by phone. Call your property manager. We'll get it started for you. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time on the webinar, and we will update this information in another couple of months.